Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I've got the top 10 hottest new commanders for you. And yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. Let's jump into it. So, coming in at number 10, Chisgoria Forged Tyrant. Over the past week, it has 203 decks to its name. A 5/4 legendary creature, of course. Dragon that costs 6 red, and it has affinity for artifacts, so it's going to cost 1 less to cast for every single artifact you have. It's got flying and haste, and whenever it attacks, you exile the top 5 cards of your library. You can cast an artifact spell from among them this turn. If you do, it's going to have affinity for artifacts. So, this commander, well, might seem like it has a very high cost, but you can cast it very early, very quickly, and very cheaply again and again and again, because, again, with affinity for artifacts, you can get a ton of artifacts in play to reduce that cost, and it's just going to cost you 3 mana, and keep in mind, that does count toward commander tax as well if this does get dealt with. And yeah, you get immediate value from that attack, because, again, it does have haste. That flying is nice to be able to get through an opponent as well. There are a couple of different directions that you can take this commander. I mean, you can go Voltron if you want. You can go just, artifacts, going wide strategy. A lot of exciting things that you can do with this one. And many players out there, yeah, obviously very excited as well. Next up, we're moving on to number 9 with Azuri Stalker of Spheres. And over the past week, this one has 219 decks to its name, according to EDH Rack. A 3/3 Phyrexian Elf Warrior that costs 2 green and a blue. When it enters the battlefield, you can pay 3, and if you do, you proliferate twice. And on top of that, whenever you proliferate, you draw a card. So this is a fantastic ETB that can really be used and abused in many ways. I mean, think about utilizing that ETB with any kind of a blink spell, essentially, which of course you have access to with that blue. And yeah, just being able to utilize that ETB again and again and again to proliferate a ton of times to get more and more counters on your things, like +1/+1 counters, level up counters, or, maybe some things for your opponents too, like -1/-1 counters for their creatures, or poison counters for them. Regardless, while you are proliferating with this effect and others, you are gaining additional card advantage. So yeah, I am not surprised to see this one on the list. Many Simic players out there, I'm sure, are excited for something brand new and doesn't just, focus on lands. And yeah, Azuri is a great new commander that, of course, is quite popular so far. Next up, though, we're moving on to number 8 with Vika Enigma Goliath coming in at 239 decks over the past week. A 6/6 Phyrexian Nightmare with flying that costs 5 blue, red. It has Ward 3, pay 3 life, and on top of that, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create X 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens, or X the mana value of that spell. They gain haste until end of turn. So this is kind of like a Locust God in a way, meets, kind of like a Tolrend, essentially. This is a commander that can make you an absurd amount of tokens very, very, very quickly. Now, this commander does have a very high converted mana cost to make up for that, but it's also a commander that is pretty hard to deal with. It is a 6/6 flyer that is really hard to deal with, again, with that Ward 3 on top of having to pay 3 life. And yeah, you're in blue, so yeah, you've got counter spells to, stop your opponents from actually, even getting rid of this. And when you do cast those counter spells or those other non-creature spells, you're going to be making a massive goblin army that, of course, is hasty. So you're kind of, in a way, just kind of like basically casting a fireball in addition to every single non-creature spell you have. Just a massive army dealing damage out of nowhere. Moving on, though, number 7, we've got Sophium Mayhem Dominus, which comes in at 268 decks over the past week. A 5/4 Phyrexian Horror that costs 2 red, and it says, if a source you control deal non-combat damage to an opponent, or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. And by paying 1 Phyrexian red, discard 2 cards, put an indestructible counter on Sophium Mayhem Dominus. Yeah, this Dominus is quite popular, and for good reason. many players out there absolutely love Group Slug. Hey, let's just get, some damage out there for everyone. Let's make this game take, maybe 20 minutes or so. We're just going to deal damage to everyone. I'm going to burn everything down to the ground, including myself, and hopefully I burn my opponents down faster. And this commander, of course, makes it so that you can do just that, because while you may have many effects that can deal damage to everyone, you're going to be dealing double damage to your opponents with those non-combat sources. And of course, on top of that, this is very easily protected. Just discarding 2 cards. Very, very simple for you to do to get that indestructible counter on this to keep this around. So yeah, I am not surprised to see this one on the list. Now we're moving on to number 6, though, with Karl Monix, the Rat King, with 270 decks to its name over the past week. A 3/3 Phyrexian Rat with Toxic 1 that costs 1 black, and it says, other rats you control have Toxic 1. And as a reminder, Toxic is basically, hey, players dealt combat damage by this creature also get a poison counter, because Toxic 1 is just one poison counter. On top of that, though, when Karl Monix enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library, may reveal any number of rat cards from among them and put the real cards in your hand, put the rest of them in your library in a random order. So, this is a rat tribal commander that many out there have been waiting for quite some time, whether you're going to go Rat Colony, or Relentless Rats, or, just other rats. There are plenty of rats in Magic. You can utilize them very effectively with this commander that makes them incredibly deadly. Again, only 10 poison counters to take an opponent out, and now your rats make it so that your opponents are going to be quite fearful of them, as if they're not already scared of rats. Many people out there are scared of rats. I'm scared of rats, and I'm definitely scared of Karl Monix. Speaking of scary, though, number 5, we've got Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines, with 393 decks to her name over the past week. Yeah, that is quite the jump from our previous numbers. A 4/7 Phyrexian Praetor with Vigilance that costs 4 and a white. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers initial time. And on top of that, permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. So basically, hey, Panharmonicon, well, an even better version of Panharmonicon in the command zone, and on top of that, basically a better version of Torpor Orb as well. Double up your ETBs and stop any of your opponent's ETBs as well. You can get absurd amount of value, you can get absurd amount of just absolutely crazy turns with this commander, while also saying, oh yeah, you've got a blink deck, unfortunately for you, it doesn't matter, because I'm just going to shut all of that down. So this is like a hate bear with a value just engine stapled onto it. Yeah, I am not surprised to see Elesh Norn up here as well. And speaking of not surprising, moving on, at number 4, we've got Attraxa Grand Unifier with 415 decks to her name over the past week. A 7/7 Phyrexian Angel with, yeah, you guessed it, Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink that costs 3. Green, white, blue, black. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put a card of that type from among the cards revealed this way in your hand. Put the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. And of course, our card types are Artifact, Battle, Creature, Enchantment, Instant Land, Planeswalker, and Sorcery. And yeah, actually, if you didn't know that Battle is a brand new card type that apparently is going to be coming out at some point, there you go. There's the little spoiler for you. And yeah, so basically, when this comes into play, you have the chance of gaining an absurd amount of card advantage. Again, basically 8 cards off the top of your library, potentially right into your hand, just on it ETBing. And yeah, that's not a cast trigger ETB. That's just like, hey, let's blink this. And you've got plenty of ways to blink it, plenty of ways to get it back, plenty of ways to reanimate it, plenty of ways to use and abuse that ETB to get an absurd amount of cards. Basically, just draw your entire deck. Why not? And on top of that, again, a 7/7 very deadly creature that has a ton of keywords. Keyword soup, Attraxa, yeah, what's not to love about that for many players out there? Next up, though, we've got Vishgraz, the Doom Hive, with 498 decks to its name over the past week. A 3/3 Phyrexian insect with Menace Toxic 1, and it costs 2 white, black, green. It says, When it enters the battlefield, create 3 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. And on top of that, Vishgraz gets ++1 for each poison counter your opponents have. So again, an ETB that you can easily use and abuse, making a massive army of Phyrexian Mights, which of course again have Toxic 1, as does the commander. And yeah, there are plenty of ways to take advantage of Toxic, again, with proliferate effects, with, double strike effects, which of course you have access to since you have white as well. And of course, the more and more poison counters your opponents get, the more powerful this becomes. This can not only be a, commander that can take your opponents out when it comes to poison, it can take them out with a go wide strategy, or it can take them out with a go tall strategy. This can be a one-shot KO quite easily. Yeah, Vishgraz has a lot going for it, and I probably should mention, one of the things that is going for it is that this is one of the commanders in one of the precons that is quite popular, so that's probably why its numbers are quite high. Speaking of which, yeah, Ixal, Sign of Attraxa, the face commander of one of the precons, the more popular, I would assume, of the precons, is at 548 decks to its name over the past week. A 2/5 Phyrexian Angel that costs 1 white, black, green, of course in second place now. Flying Vigilance, Toxic 2, Corrupted. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent who has 3 or more poison counters exiles the top card of their library. Face down, you may look at and play those cards for as long as they remain exile, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. So again, with flying and vigilance, well, the vigilance is nice, but the flying helps you get through this, which is great for that Toxic 2, again, giving out 2 poison counters, nearly getting to that corrupted amount. In fact, you can easily get there again with any kind of a double strike effect on this, or just a simple proliferate effect. So yeah, you can very easily get to 3 poison counters on all of your opponents quite quickly with a commander like this, and then you can get an absurd amount of card advantage from those opponents. So yeah, I am not surprised to see this being a popular commander, and one that many players are excited to play. But the number one hottest commander over the past week is Urtet, Remnant of Memnark, with 809 decks to its name. A 2/2 legendary artifact creature mirror that costs 3, and it says, whenever you cast a mirror spell, create a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token. Beginning of combat on your turn, untap each mirror you control, and by paying Wooburg and tapping it, you put 3+1 counters on each mirror you control. Activate only during your turn. So yeah, Mirror Tribal has finally gotten a commander that can really be utilized and do some really cool things. There's a lot of players out there that have been waiting quite some time, including myself, for a Mirror Tribal commander, and here it is, and it's really fantastic. Again, there are only so many Mirror cards out there, even with some of the new ones from the new set, but yeah, now whenever you cast Mirror spells, you can make more Mirror, which of course can be very impactful. Of course, there are certain Mirror that like to tap and utilize abilities, like this one, so being able to untap them for combat can be huge. And of course, yeah, that last ability itself is a great way to make your army even more powerful. Even those tiny little 1/1 mirrors, if you activate this twice on the same turn, now all of a sudden those little 1/1 mirrors are 7/7s. And yeah, you can very easily do that in a 5-color deck like this. Many players out there have been waiting for this one, and I am definitely not surprised to see Urtet very much at the top, again, with a ton of decks to its name over the past week, 809. So again, congratulations, Urtet. And with that, today's episode is coming to a close, so yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on it in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.